pretty strict and pretty jealous. Pretty petty human emotion, I think.
Good. Oh, where did you put your
I was just going to cite Sodom and Gomorrah as that's not God, like, that's not the Bible just saying that it happened. That's God actively saying, I don't like what you guys are doing, I'm going to kill all of you. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
And as far as the Bible being a historical reference, the Jewish Archaeological Society, which would have every reason to prove that there was a Moses or the Exodus happened or anything like that, since it's their book, actually everyone's quite proud of them, because the Jewish Archaeological Society actually came out and said that there is absolutely no evidence for Abraham, Moses, the Exodus, 40 years in the desert with thousands of people. Absolutely no archaeological evidence.
Where did you hear this exactly?
The Jewish Archaeological Society. You can look it up.
Yes, there are multiple scholars that have specifically said that there is no other archaeological or no other ancient text that can be proven that it is true except for the Bible.
Who said that?
Said there are multiple scholars
proven
that
it's
said that.
true.
No, that's...
No,
well, we have a difference of opinion. Does anybody have a question for Lindsay?
I don't know.
Okay, that's fine. So, by the way, comments are fine too.
Yeah. The question is, like, how much research have you done for and against? I mean, like, has the research against, you know, believing?
Well, I would say personally that at 14 years old, I grew up in a household where I thought that God and Jesus were the same person. Nobody set me down and told me anything about any type of religion. I always believed in a God. I don't know why, even though nobody ever told me about it, I just believed. And at 14 years old, I was saved, and it was all my choice, you know, nobody, this was all me. And I actually sat and heard a sermon where the preacher told me that if I, verbatim, listened to rock and roll music, I was going to hell. And I got up and I walked out of the church, and I never went back. And I don't know if that's my choice for the type of church that I picked, but I mean, as a historian, I am a historian. I cannot look at the Bible and in any way at all say that is a historical document. No, it's a literary document.
Okay, fine. And you wanted to
To comment on that there's no archaeological evidence. I am an atheist, so I'm on your side, but there is evidence for the Ark, and it's not like the Ark like in the Ark of the Covenant. It's basically a drum, and I saw that on the History Channel. So. This guy went and like basically set up like a storage house or something like that. So
okay.
There is evidence.
Fine.
It's just not
Very
the Ark is a drum. It's not an ark at all. It's basically a drum, and basically used to push away like attackers and stuff like that. So
well,
I mean, like there is evidence, but like I don't think it is like it's supposed to be in the Bible.
The Soviet Air Force apparently reported things on Mount Ararat. But listen, this gentleman over here.
Okay. I just wanted to ask each of y'all real quick, where do you believe the burden of proof lies for believing in a God or not believing in God? Do you believe it belongs on the side of people who believe in God, or do you believe it belongs on the side of people who don't believe in God?
One of my favorite quotes is actually, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And the atheist isn't making any claims. It's the Christian that's saying that they know what happens after you die. It's the Christian that's saying that they can understand the mind of God. The atheist, he just doesn't, I don't know, you probably...
The burden of proof always lies with the one who is making the proposition. You can't go into a biology lab and say that you've discovered unicorns. Disprove me. That's not how it works. You come in with proof of unicorns first, and then we'll talk. So until you have proof, then there's no real rational discussion.
First, I think that atheists do make a claim, and there's a claim that you don't believe that there's a God. Some atheists, I know you know, that claim that there is no God, that you can't know that there's a God, and we have proof that there's not. So some atheists do make claims, I think. But I think that the burden of proof lies on whoever is wanting this proof. if you need proof, then I think that you should look for it. But I personally think that God doesn't want 100% proof that he's there, because then it would be easy. You wouldn't have to have belief, you wouldn't have to have faith, and God wants us to have faith and look to believe in him. So I think that although through science and I think through history, because the Bible is historically reliable and we have more sources than whatever drum that you were talking about, sir, but I don't think that was the actual Ark of the Covenant. But there is a lot of historical proof. But I think that even though we're finding more and more over time, I really don't think that it'll ever be 100% clear, because God wants us to believe in him, and there will always be those that are skeptics and that want to show otherwise.
Thank you.
I basically agree with Landon and Reardon. I think that if you make the claim, you need to back it up. And if you don't have anything to make a claim, then you don't make a claim.
Okay, very good.
I think the fact that God doesn't need proof completely is quite convenient, honestly. How can, I mean, I understand the whole point of it's faith, but faith is what? Belief without evidence.
Well, there is proof, but I don't think that there's 100% proof.
But we keep saying that there is proof. What is proof of the supernatural? This whole search for science to prove God, what does that mean? Science is the study of the natural. So we're going to study a tree and prove that it came from God? I mean, that's impossible. You know what I'm saying? It's an oxymoron. You can't have the natural to prove the supernatural. It's impossible. There is no such thing as evidence for God, right? Now, there might be evidence for an ark, okay, but there is no such thing as evidence for God, because you can't use the natural to give evidence for the supernatural.
Yes.
Mr. Lockhart made his statement, and then he explained that he was loud and boisterous, and that's why he... But Mr. Ford made the claim that he was a radical Christian. And, I mean, in this day and age, we know what radical Islam is. You have two basic religions, Islam and Christianity, that their basic theme is radical, which is the conversion of everyone else on the world. And I'd like for Mr. Ford to explain his idea of radical Christianity.
I think that the way I see what Jesus says is that we should love God fully, and that we should love others fully as well. And I think that a lot of these ideas are very counter-human. I don't think that people like loving people that they hate. Do you like loving people that you hate? No, I don't think people like it. But I think that we're called to, you know.
I'm an atheist. I like cannibalism.
I think you like cannibalism, and I like loving others. So I think that the claims of Jesus and the lifestyle that he calls us to live to are very extreme, and that's what I meant by radical. And I think that this extreme love he wants us to have for all people and to share it with all people, even when they hate us. I think that it's very important, you know, like Jesus says, that we should love these people, and I think that's very unordinary. I don't think that people do that on their own. I think that you tend to not like someone that hates you.
I think that was a really good point, though, that it wasn't your ultimate question, but it goes back to something we asked earlier, which was, why have most societies been religious? And honestly, even though not many people are going to accept this in this room, why are most of us in here Christian? Well, because when Christianity was extremely imperialist, who was in power, right? The Christians. They're the ones that conquered the West. Islam's imperialist too, but they didn't have as much power as Christianity at the time the West was conquered. That's why we're Christian, because the imperialist Christianity conquered the West. That's why we're not Islamic, Buddhist, Hindu, Jew. They're not imperialists.
No, that's European. If we were maybe European Christians, I would agree with that statement. But we're American Christians so we come from we're not from a Catholic Christian root.
But we wouldn't be European Christian or any kind of Christian if Islam had the power and they conquered the
Well,
West.
sure, that's some people's case, but I don't think you can make that statement for all American Christians.
Maybe not everybody, but the majority of the people.
I know I'm not
95% of the United States
there
is
was
Christian.
empirical Christianity at one time.
But that's why Christianity is 95%. 95% of people in the United States are Christian. Why? That was my point. I understand that they don't.
I actually just saw on CNN that said that 15% of America is now atheist today.
I think it's not.
Thank you. Now, remember, if you wish to say something, you may do that. Yes.
I had a couple questions, one for Lindsay and one for Gary. First one to Lindsay. I believe that God's existence, as agnostic, God's existence can't be proven or disproven, right?
That's right.
Okay, well, I can't prove or disprove unicorns.
I believe in unicorns. I believe in everything. It's a possibility that may exist. I believe in everything. I believe in hobbits. I believe in the tooth fairy. I believe